Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Lori with the Produce Moms. I am the founder of the Produce Moms. I'm the host of this podcast, and I absolutely love this mini series that we are doing in partnership with the USDA and Family and Consumer Sciences. Family and Consumer Sciences, for those of you who have been following this podcast, or maybe for those of you who remember from your days in school or your kids' school, it's really a very important sector of education. Prior to hosting this mini series, I kind of just knew it as the sector of education where nutrition and culinary arts were taught at the middle school and high school level. But oh my goodness, have all of our amazing guests taught me that it is so much more than that. So today we are welcoming two incredible stewards to Family and Consumer Sciences, just absolute scholars. From the state of Maryland, we have Dr. Jacqueline Holland. She is the director of the Department of Family and Consumer Sciences at Morgan State University. And then from the state of Wisconsin, we have Dr. Susan Turgeson. She is the Associate Professor, Family and Consumer Sciences at the University of Wisconsin in Stevens Point. So with that, I'd like to welcome our two guests. Dr. Holland, we'll start with you. And then Dr. Turgeson, we'll have you introduce yourself after Dr. Holland's remarks. So Dr. Holland, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lori. And thank you so much for having me on. I just really applaud the work that you're doing and getting the word out about family consumer sciences and all of the components of it and what it is. So just thank you so much for being a supporter of us and promoting what we do. My background is I started out as at the time, was home economics teacher. Attended the University of Maryland, College Park, majored in home economics education, and became a teacher in a high school in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Maryland, and just loved what I did because it's all life skills and students just really do well and, just blossom in that. After doing that for some time, then I became a mentor teacher. So in the county, we were seeing that teachers were leaving early. People who came to teach, we didn't quite know why. When we interviewed them in an exit interview, they said they didn't have the support. It wasn't money. It was they didn't have a mentor to walk with them, in this profession. And so our county created this mentoring program, and I was assigned to a middle school and just mentored new teachers that came into the profession. So it wasn't just in family consumer sciences, though I did some of that as well, but it was more broad. And even people who might have been changing careers, like they did something different, now they're coming into education. And in that job, I was an advocate and I loved it, just going in, observing classroom teaching, co-teaching with them, doing workshops. From that position, then I went into an administrative one, and I was an administrator in a middle school, assistant principal, and then from there, I was the supervisor for family and consumer sciences for our entire county. And with that position, it gave me the power to impact thousands of students with family and consumer sciences programs. And so that was just phenomenal, to be able to do that and have input in all of these students' lives and, helping them shape their career as they left high school. From there, I became an assistant professor at Morgan State University, where I am currently, and then associate, and now I also am interim department director for the department.
Incredible background. And I know there's one highlight you left off. I know this from our pre-show conversations, but I'll go ahead and brag on Dr. Holland with that. Despite that incredible resume that she shared, she was also the former president of the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. And I know we'll have an opportunity to talk about that organization and your experience there as the show moves on. But welcome to the show. We're really glad you're here. And another one of your dear friends and colleagues, Dr. Susan Turgeson from the state of Wisconsin. Dr. Turgeson, we're glad you're here.
Well, I'm so happy to be with you as well. It's great to have this venue to help us raise our voice, to share the visibility and the value of family and consumer sciences. So we really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
After listening to everything that my colleague, Dr. Holland, has done, I pale by comparison, I feel. I kind of had a backdoor into family and consumer sciences. I did lots of careers, and I was one of the first probably who dabbled in multiple career clusters before that was the thing to do. I was a children's section librarian. I was a small business and farm accountant for 4 years. A rental property manager, grocery store customer service and deli employee. I sold cars for 1.5 years, and I was also a home visitor supervisor. And then I thought I wanted to teach. Yeah. It had been something that I wanted to do when I was in high school, but I got bit by the business bug at some point. And so after 10 years of all of these different jobs, it was definitely time to go back. I had been coaching a dance team and really enjoyed working with students. And so at the time I thought, early childhood was where I was going to go because I thought those early years were so vital. And in my intro class, a family and consumer sciences professor came in and started talking about family and consumer sciences. And even though I had taken the courses as a high school student, I never had really thought about teaching it. Right. And as she was talking about all of the things, I'm like, I've done that. I know that. I could do that. And she was promising a job at the end. Wow. And having been a mom and having left a full-time job to go back to school, that was really important to me. And then never looked back. I got to teach middle school for 1 year, which I loved middle school students, so much energy and excitement. And I absolutely intended to retire from that job. And then a position opened 6 blocks from where I lived at a high school. And I happened to apply for that job, got it, and stayed there for 12 years. I did think I was going to retire from that position as well. I loved it, everything about it. It was fabulous. And then the opportunity at the university presented itself. And now I've been at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point for 9 years. Wow. Started as an assistant professor, and then I'm an associate professor now. I am the program director of the Family and Consumer Sciences Education undergraduate and graduate programs.
It's amazing. And I love your background. I love, as you said it in your remarks, but one thing that this podcast series has taught me is just how wide of a net family and consumer sciences education really is. And as you were talking about your background, whether it was those accounting days or in your sales days, obviously when you were working in the food industry and grocery retail, all of those things fall under family and consumer sciences. And I love too that your pathway to the classroom as an educator actually came as a return to school. Like this is the next, season of my professional life. I've learned through this podcast series as well that's a absolutely critical part of recruiting educators. As there's a lot of people who reevaluate what they're doing in the business world or where they're at with their career, maybe at that middle age point, and they think, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and lean into my passion for education. And I'm sure that, that history and that perspective that you have, Dr. Turgeson, it has to just inspire your students at the university and all the classrooms that you've touched. But tell us a little bit more about what you do at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point and how, as a professor, you are preparing future educators and future teachers.
Well, we don't have enough time to tell you everything I do. As I said, being the program director, I get to have the opportunity to interact with students at all levels. And as I said, both our undergraduate and graduate programs. The majority of my job is teaching, and that's what I love, and it's why I'm at the university that I am, because teaching is our priority. I have the good fortune of teaching our introductory level course. So any student who's looking at family and consumer sciences, whether it's teacher licensure or not, are part of that course. So I get to know all of our students right away. Then being able to work with them through our curriculum and methods courses, program planning and assessment. And then I get to bookend their career by being their student teaching supervisor. So really getting to watch them mature and evolve as pre-professionals over the course of their undergraduate career, helping them set up their observations and practicum experiences, sharing resources, helping them network with professionals. It's all part of my job. And I always tell them that you can find content anywhere, right? We have the internet, we have so many resources out there, but it's finding good quality resources, and it's really connecting them with other professionals so that they can put all of that content into practice. And with our grad students, as you mentioned, with my background coming in as a non-traditional student, it really is an opportunity to connect with them, because primarily, they are individuals who have had other careers who are now looking at teaching as a profession. So kind of helping to guide and support and mentor them in that process. Some of those individuals are current teachers who are seeking additional licensure, and then others are career changers who are looking for initial teacher licensure. But it's been great, and just being able to watch them be successful, and as they say yes to FCS, ultimately having our hashtag FCS success at the end is just really special.
Right. Are we still in a position with FCS where the job market is strong and you can nearly guarantee a job placement for your students?
Oh, I can more than guarantee. So back in 1996, when I went back to school for family and consumer sciences, and I was promised a job at the end, I can make that same promise to my students. We typically say that within the state, there's at least 3 jobs for every graduate.
Wow.
And nationwide, it's more like 10 jobs for every graduate.
Unbelievable.
So the job market is strong and will continue to be that way. And it's partially due to retirements, but it's also due to more school districts expanding their programs, which is really exciting. It's a great time to be part of career and technical education and family and consumer sciences.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And Dr. Holland, please tell us a little bit more about, any follow-up remarks that you have to that about your preparations for future FCS professionals. I mean, I think it goes without saying that the future is bright for anyone who chooses to study this at the university level.
Yeah, and like Dr. Turgeson, I also teach the intro course, the orientation, and it's amazing. I even have students who are not family consumer science students who enter that class, and they're just blown away with all of the things, the careers that this major touches on. And it's not restricted. That's what I love about it, because you can do so many different things with it. In preparing them, our students, they take classes in nutrition and wellness. We know that the interpersonal relationships, how you get along with others, whether in your family, your neighborhood, your roommate, all of that is so important, and learning the principles of that. How to get along with others and work with others. We also have a big part with child development and parenting. Mm-hmm. We know that children are our future, and, to invest in them in a good way, in a proper way, will help them to become an adult that can do well in the world. And so we help them with that. Also, personal and family finance, which is a really big aspect of being in charge of your finances, knowing how to control it, knowing that really determines your also quality of life, how you manage your money. It's such a big
so
component
important.
of that.
I think that when I graduated college, that was like the first thing that I wished I would have had a better understanding of, you study all this stuff and it's like, dang, I wish I knew how to better manage my money and pay my bills,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, I love it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, folks, when I talk about the wide net of this. From my point of view at the Produce Moms, we've known family and consumer sciences to be nutrition and culinary arts, but oh my gosh, it's so much more. So yeah, any other remarks on that?
Yeah, I think the other things I would mention that I think Dr. Turgeson has addressed this perfectly thoroughly with the education and training, helping our future teachers. At Morgan, we also have a fashion merchandising program, and that is so wide and all that you can do regarding that. And then housing and interior design. Right now, we know about housing insecurity. We've experienced that a lot with COVID, with the pandemic, just a lot of the challenges that people have faced based on that. And then resource management, like how do you manage those resources? How do you plug them in? So again, you're going to live a sustainable life. You're going to live a productive life. So those are some of the things that our students leave with when they graduate from the program.
It's wonderful. It's so comprehensive, and it touches on so many very important things that not only with academia, but just life skills. And so Dr. Holland, let's talk about the work that you have championed with diversity and inclusion. You've been an instrumental part of that community at the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences during your tenure as former president and ongoing as a member. But tell us a little bit more about diversity and inclusion initiatives and why this is important, and what kind of opportunities exist for FCS professionals.
Yeah, thank you. I think that diversity, equity, and inclusion is so important as we see that our world is changing. Our country is changing. The country that we all lived in, 10 years ago looked different from what we see now. There's a lot of diversity and not just in cultures, but ethnicity and what people do, gender, their selection. It's just so much. And I felt that as a professional, as for AAFCS, the American Association of Family Consumer Sciences, if we say that we are the people-centered sciences, that means that we work with all kinds of people that come from all different backgrounds. And yet, oftentimes we think in one way, based on how we grew up or, what we read. And so this community is really trying to stretch us to have our members be open to the different ways of thought by individuals. We've seen a lot of it again with COVID. It's brought out a lot of the, the pandemic has brought out a lot of things that are not equal across the board. And, you can see really magnified the haves and the have-nots. And so, we're called to work with people. These are our children that are in our classrooms or in our community. So what are things that we can do to really help people think about that?
Yeah. And components of diversity, equity, inclusion as it relates to culture and lifestyle, things like the financial side, food security, housing, all of those components are integrated into the curriculum and the different course tracks that are offered in FCS. So it's you can't really have one without the other, especially today, No, fantastic. Thank you so much. And, coming back to Dr. Turgeson, I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. You're the former National Family and Consumer Sciences Teacher of the Year, and what an incredible honor that is. So how do what did you do to achieve that? And how do you use that experience to inspire the work that you're doing today as you really, help craft and inspire the educators of tomorrow?
Well, thank you. 2009 seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah.
It was actually part of our 100-year celebration of AAFCS, the year that I was the National Teacher of the Year. And one of the things that made that so special to me is I felt that we were really bookending our century at that time with Ellen Richards and the work that she did founding the profession and really having that based in science and how we use science to improve our quality of life. My recognition was for a food science program that I had in the district where I was working. And through the collaboration of so many people and just amazing students, I always say that award is really a recognition of a program and a district and a community more than it's a reflection of the individual. But having that experience does help me to really share with students how exciting family and consumer sciences can be. And it allows me to talk about the professional organization as well. But all of my years in the classroom, again, as a middle school teacher and then as a high school teacher, so many stories that I'm able to share. So lots of examples as students are thinking about their opportunities in the classroom and being able to ask questions and, what did I do? But I always put it back on them. Well, what would you do? Right? Yeah. Because you should never try to be someone else. You need to be your own authentic self as an instructor. And you have to think about your students and your community. And not try to replicate what someone else has done necessarily. But those stories are a great way to connect those theories and the content that we're talking about to the practical experiences. But all the connections that I've made in the field from being a National Teacher of the Year, I just had such a great opportunity to meet people across the United States and to network. And that's really helped me build my understanding of the field of family and consumer sciences education, because it looks different wherever you may happen to live. And so I'm also able to give examples from my colleagues across the United States of the things that they're doing. But one of my big messages to students is always don't reinvent the wheel, make it roll faster. So if they can take any of the things that I experienced or that I created and take that and do more with it, nothing would make me happier.
I love that.
Just to always be making those revisions based on your needs and never just try to take someone else's work and do that, because it's not going to feel as authentic. And it's just critical that you continue to learn and grow in the profession. And so the other big lesson from that is food science was not something that I learned in my undergraduate teacher preparation program. That wasn't a primary focus. Who knew that a decade later, I would be getting a national award for food science? So sometimes students think, I didn't learn that in my undergrad. There's lots of things. We won't be able to teach you everything. I tell them as well that if you want us to teach you everything, you never get to graduate, because there's always more to know. And you never know what your future is going to hold. Because it's an ever evolving profession. So, food science was relatively new at that time, which again, we're 12 years beyond that now, and food sciences gained a lot of popularity. What will be the next thing? And they will be the innovators and the pioneers of those, and they'll be the trailblazers of the future.
I love that. I also love your tagline. Don't reinvent the wheel, make it go faster. That's good. Just a good motto to live by, really. I love it. All right. So Dr. Holland, this USDA grant, it's focused on recruiting, preparing, and supporting family and consumer sciences educators. So let's talk a little bit more about how all three of these priorities are critical to the work that you do at the university level.
Well, definitely, because there is a shortage, of family consumer sciences teachers. And I'd like to piggyback on what Dr. Turgeson said, that, students can go anywhere in the world if they are a FACS education teacher, FCS teacher, and get a job. And I, too, get calls all the time. So I think it's just great to be able to recruit, and this is awesome, because you probably have some people listening right now who are hearing our stories and thinking, oh, I could possibly do that, So to get the word out about what we're about and how we help people, the people-centered sciences, I think it's very important to recruit, going in different places, even starting with high school students. And, FCCLA, I know, has partnered with us in doing that. And then also the preparation, knowing that teaching looks different today than it did several years ago. And how do we prepare our students to be able to engage and work with the individuals who they will see in front of them? It goes back again to that whole idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, getting to know that student. And so in the preparation, the cultural aspect, and helping them to see things from other people's perspective and appreciate and celebrate, the differences as well as the strategies of teaching that are so important to make sure that students are learning what we want them to learn. And then support. Again, I go back to my job as a mentor, which I loved. We need to support these individuals as they're coming into the profession, whether it be workshops, resources, a one-on-one with someone who's in the career, conferences. We're having a conference that's coming up next week. All of those things are so great. And to be able just to listen, to reach back to students and to listen to what some of their challenges might be and coming alongside of them to help them, to give them that support, to shore them up so that they can move forward and be successful in their career.
Yeah, I love that. Wonderful. And Dr. Turgeson, how are you keeping these college students engaged? I mean, burnout is real. We actually had an entire episode about that from the educator point of view, teacher burnout. But I'd love to know, especially in the challenging years that we've had, so much virtual learning, minimal opportunity to see folks in person. How are you keeping the college students engaged and really shoring them in or ushering them in to that next stage of starting their career?
Well, students if they are entering the teaching profession right now, it means they really want to teach.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Yeah.
People who want this as a profession. Once they come to us, then, to make them want to stay in the profession, because sometimes when you discover what something really is, you're like, ooh, no, that's not what I want to do at all. We're excited that the majority of individuals who indicate that they're going to pursue family and consumer sciences actually follow through. And so that's great. And part of the way that we do that is really getting those students engaged with their peers. Our student organizations are really strong. And one of the things that I tell individuals who are thinking about family and consumer sciences is family is in our name, and we are one big family. And as Dr. Holland said, we want to support them. We want to see them be successful. And I think that's one of the best parts is the professionals and even the retired individuals in our field who are so willing to share and assist and mentor and do anything they can to help individuals begin their career and then stay in that career. As you said, mental health is really important. Teacher burnout is real, and it's been tough for the last 15 months because so much more has been added to individuals' plates. But again, when you have a support system and when you have the resources available, you can get through that.
Right.
And so it's really important that we're helping to connect them to those resources because oftentimes people just don't discover them on their own. And so I think that's one of our biggest roles as teacher educators is being that liaison between the pre-professional and our current professionals and bringing them together and helping them connect in those mentoring roles. But our students have had opportunities to volunteer with our career and technical student organizations like FCCLA. And so getting to see students actively engaged in family and consumer sciences activities. Even though some of our conferences have had to be virtual over the last, again, several months, attending conferences is one of the big ways that students really get engaged in the profession. And when they do that, then they actually feel like they're part of something. They're not just taking classes and learning content, but they're actually thinking about how they can apply that, and then hearing those stories and how people are doing those types of things in their work. Having opportunities to work side by side with practicing professionals, volunteer opportunities, getting to know our alumni has been extremely beneficial in getting those students engaged and excited about their future. And then as we really are helping them once they've graduated, I always tell students, just because you graduate doesn't mean you're done with me. I'm like the Friends song, I'll be there for you,
Yes.
right? So again, when they're first starting out their career, when they have questions, when they have concerns, we're a safe place to ask those questions. And again, I can connect them with those other resources. So just supporting and mentoring them in their success, encouraging them to stay actively engaged. We're so excited at our state affiliate how many of our new professionals are board members. And so they are taking those leadership roles in the profession. And I think when you have a voice and when you get to help find the direction of your profession, it's that much more engaging. The reading and research with all the current practices and staying up to date, again, we have an ever evolving field. I pick on mathematics, but 2 + 2 is always 4. When we start thinking about our society, it's never the same equation. And as Dr. Holland has alluded to with diversity, inclusion, and equity initiatives, that's something that's really key, that we think about all those diverse individuals and families and communities where we'll work, and there's always more to know. So I think that's one of the things that's really fun about family and consumer sciences is there's just always more to learn, and it just never gets stagnant and old.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Dr. Holland, any remarks that you would like to add on that? Any other strategies or sentiments about how, at the university level, you are helping those college students as they transition into their profession?
Right. I think Susan took them all.
Yeah.
Awesome job.
Great remarks.
I think a lot has to be said also about service learning, and to bring what you're learning in the classroom, all of those philosophies and the theories, and then really going out to work in the community and make a difference. And I know with my students who are, going to high school and observing, the family consumer sciences teacher there, and then to have the high school students touch base with them. Like, for instance, for us, like I have, a number of Black males that are going out into the schools, and these high school students are talking with them and, learning more about what they're doing there at the university. They're making such an impact, in that way. And I too really just like to develop their leadership skills. So in our local affiliate, whenever we have a conference, my students are presenting. My students are helping to run the conference. My students are doing registration. My students are greeting people as they come in. All of those things are skills that they will need as they move forward into whatever career path they end up in family consumer sciences. So I think that makes them feel good about who they are, affirms them. They come back and share with other students what they've done. And it's a win-win, for everyone. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just each and every one of these remarks, I keep coming back to, oh my gosh, the recruiting, preparing, and supporting that exists within this field of studies and this community of professionals. I don't know if there's anything even comparable. It's remarkable how integrated and supportive and it's just a community. That's the best way that I can describe it. After each and every one of these episodes, I have FOMO that I am not part of it. With
not too late.
Yes. Now with that, that brings us to the end of the show. This has been an incredible episode. Both of you are just remarkable in your accomplishments and in your passions and in what you bring to this great industry of FCS. So our tradition on the Produce Moms podcast is you get the final words. So we will start with Dr. Holland. We'll start with you, and then Dr. Turgeson, we will have you sign us off from the show. So Dr. Holland, please, any closing remarks, final goodbyes to our listeners. We are so glad that you were part of this show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, I think if you were to ask my students about me, they would say that I live, eat, breathe, bleed family and consumer sciences. And that's because I believe in it so much, because I see what it's done for me in my life, what it's done for my students. I love to see students' eyes light up when they're learning things, and then even being able to share with others, look what I'm doing, look what we're doing. And so I think it's one of the professions that might be a little known secret, but hopefully it will not be that for long, that touches on every aspect of life, the sciences, the social sciences, the pure sciences, all of that is enveloped within our profession. And so it also gives us a way to collaborate across campus with the other different departments. And that's fun too, to see how, this is family consumer sciences, and it elevates us in that way. So I'm just so proud to be a family and consumer sciences professional. I'm proud to be working in the field and to helping students come along in that way as well. Thanks again, Lori, for having us on today.
Thank you. And Dr. Turgeson, please, any closing remarks? We're really thankful you could be part of this special edition podcast. And hey, you get the final goodbye, so make sure you thank our audience too.
Well, I could just say ditto to everything that Dr. Holland said. It is such a special profession. And the fact that it is so interdisciplinary, again, makes it really interesting because you know a little bit about a lot of different things, and it's such a holistic perspective, and it just a different lens of looking at the world. And we change that lens all the time, that it's not just that same viewpoint, and having that empathy to think about it from others' viewpoints. So I guess I'd just like to say that it's never too late to hashtag say yes to FCS. I tell students all the time, life is all about timing. And so, Lori, maybe now's the time for you to say yes to FCS. We never know when it might come into our life, but when it finds you, my experience has been that people just are so energized and just light up and have this new invigorated view about their professional career, and everything that you learn in family and consumer sciences is so beneficial for you as a person and a professional. And so when you were talking earlier about personal finance, I always said, I wish I would have started teaching personal finance sooner, because I would have been making better decisions. And every time I teach nutrition, I'm reminding myself of those things as well. So the content is so relevant. No one ever says, when am I going to use this? It's usually a matter of minutes or days, and you're going to use that content. So we encourage people to say yes to FCS. There are lots of opportunities at the undergraduate and graduate level, and you are not necessarily bound by where you live. When I mentioned how I started, I had to find a school that was within an hour of where I lived because everything had to be done on campus in person. And technology has made it so we have so many online opportunities for people as well. So we hope that more people will say yes to FCS, and that we can continue to fill that pipeline and have thriving programs in our schools. So anyone listening today, if you're not already a family and consumer sciences professional, we welcome you to join our family. And thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.